I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's 2 o'clock, and good afternoon, everyone. After 16 months, it's great to see some fresh faces here, so we don't have to keep looking at one another. Not that that wasn't so bad. This is the first time the meeting room has been open to the public, but if you are at home, you're also able to see this by Zoom or on our town website. And so before we begin, I'd like to ask Mr. Gravier, for the benefit of those watching virtually, to please explain how they can comment or ask a question if they'd like to.
Yes, Mayor. If you're viewing this meeting via the town's website at townofbethanybeach.com or on our YouTube channel, which is Bethany Beach Gov, you may submit questions regarding any agenda item or any other items before the meeting by submitting your questions or comments to questions@townofbethanybeach.com. That's questions@townofbethanybeach.com, all lowercase. There is a little bit of lag between the time you'll hit send and the time we receive your comment, but all comments or questions will be responded to.
Thank you, Mr. Gravier. And for the record, I'd like to point out that all members of council are present in person, as well as Molly Daisy, the town clerk, and Will Wharton, our IT director. Before we begin, could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Thank you. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The next item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 18th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Kilmer?
I have
Mr.
a question.
Okay, so
or
Mr.
a comment,
Shepley,
really.
second.
On page 2, could you define what RRFB is?
Yes, that is rapid, what is that, rapid, it's the flashing lights out here,
What-
flashing
Yeah, but
beacons.
what does RRFB stand for?
It's a term of art.
Yes, it's term of, and I don't have the exact
Oh, all right.
explanation for the
Fine.
acronym.
All right.
It is, I think it's
I was just saying for the benefit of others, when they're reading this,
Right.
to see what that system is.
it's rapid something flashing beacons or something,
All right.
but along that
Rapid
line.
response flashing briefings. I like that.
Well, I'm not sure that's it, but,
You made up your new ones for the acronym.
That's it. I mean, a good job,
yeah,
Molly.
no, and
Yeah.
that's, yeah, and that could have been in there, but that's fine. Any other comments, questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the financial report. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor. This report covers the budget through June 30th, 2021. We are 25% through the year 2022. Operating budget revenue. Transfer taxes, rental taxes, and parking fees are back to normal pre-COVID levels. As a result of that, we have collected 55.9% of the budgeted revenue compared to 41.6% at this time last year. On the operating budget expenses, we have expended 22.3% of our budget amount compared to 20.2% expended this time last year. Recognizing that this report is subject to audit, I respectfully move that the council accept and approve this unaudited report.
Is there a second? Mr. Kilmer? Any questions, comments? Anyone from the audience? Okay. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The next item is announcements, recognition of visitors, and public comment. And I'd start by asking members of council if they have anything they would like to say in this section. Mr. Shepley.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to talk a little bit about our lifeguards and our lifeguard team. I guess it's been 2 weeks now, on July 7th, our lifeguards competed in competition up in Rehoboth Beach for beaches up and down the East Coast, from Ocean City up to New York, at the United States Life Saving Association Mid-Atlantic Regional Championships. The events included a 2K run, soft sand sprint relays, distance swim, swimmer rescue race, and a run, swim, run. We had a total of 11 members of our Bethany Beach Patrol qualified to compete in the 2021 USLA National Lifeguard Championships that will be held in South Padre Island, Texas, August 5th through the 7th. A really good accomplishment. But I'd like to take another minute, with your permission, to tell you just a little bit about the group of dedicated men and women. We have approximately 50 lifeguards. 38 are full-time, 12 are part-time. As you could imagine, most of our guards are college students, so we bring on additional guards to serve in the early part of the summer and the late part of the summer when the kids have to go back to school. This year, we have a total of 63 hires in our lifeguard department. On an average 3-day weekend in the summer, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have between 45 and 50 guards working during those 3 days. This team is led by Captain Joe Donnelly and his 5 lieutenants. Joe has been with us since 1993. This is his 29th year with us. And he's been our captain of the lifeguards since 2004. His 5 lieutenants average over 14 years of service to the town. I think that says a lot. Every guard must pass a physical test each season and undergo rigorous training during the summer, as well as maintain their emergency medical responder certification with CPR and AED training. These people go through a lot of physical and very extensive training during their year here. During an average year, these young men and women will perform 435 water rescues. They will deal with 45 medical emergencies, and they will help 86 lost kids and missing persons. I'll just wrap this up with 2 quotes that I'd like to share with you. When I asked Captain Donnelly about the recent competition and our impressive results, he stated how proud he was of how his team competed, but he quickly added, and I quote, "I insist that we are a job-first beach patrol as opposed to a competition-first beach patrol, and all our guards understand and take pride in that." Number 2, just last week, one of our full-time town employees and part-time lifeguard, Melanie Held, our assistant finance director, she's working right outside this room right now, saved a young child who was struggling in the water. As you could imagine, the child's mother was extremely grateful. When I asked Melanie about the incidents, she replied, quote, "That's my job. That's what we do." These young men and women showed their dedication and diligence every day while protecting everyone on the beach in all kinds of weather and challenging conditions. So, I want to finish by offering a huge shout out and thank you for a job well done to Captain Donnelly, his 5 lieutenants, and every member of the Bethany Beach Patrol, from the entire town council, Cliff and his entire management team, and all the visitors and residents that come to our beautiful beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepley. They are a great team, and they have an incredible leader. And if you see them on the beach, be sure to thank them. They're out there in all kinds of weather.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on council? Mr. Kilmer?
Yes, Mayor, on behalf of the members of the town council, I'd like to thank all the employees of the town who were involved for making this year's 4th of July event special and memorable. Special thanks to Julia Molesky for overseeing the overall planning and for inviting the 287th Army Band as well as the local rock group Love Seed Mama Jump who entertained us on the boardwalk, on the bandstand. I'd like to also recognize the employees of the town's Public Works Department who set up the beach areas for the fireworks display, as well as our lifeguards, the member of the town's police department, our beach patrol, and for Bethany Beach's fire department, EMS backup and support. Working together as a team, especially at the evening's fireworks event, we made sure that all our visitors, renters, and property owners were safe and comfortable to watch this year's fantastic fireworks display. And it was a fantastic display. I think it was one of the best ever. I have one more announcement from
Go ahead.
Cheryl and Ray Swede, directors of the Delaware Botanic Gardens in Dagsboro, is having Get Your COVID Vaccination in the Garden event on Thursday, July 22nd, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. In addition to getting your free COVID vaccination, you'll also be given free admission to visit and roam around the botanical gardens, as well as getting a free pass for a future visit. So if you haven't got your shot, there's a great opportunity, and actually have a little bit of a prize along with it. Thank you, that's my
Thank you.
announcements.
And they're beautiful gardens if you haven't seen them. Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone from the audience who has anything they would like to say? I think Mr. Mowry and Nancy Sager, you said that there was... Yeah, yes, please. Yeah, on the Bethany Beach Farmers Market. Thank you.
My name's Nancy Sager. I'm treasurer with the Bethany Beach Farmers Market. And for a very brief history, for anyone who's not familiar with our market, we opened in 2007. It was pretty much the brainchild of 3 guys who called themselves the Alley Rats, that alley being between 1st Street and 2nd Street. Dan Costello, Steve Wode, Gene Jordan, and they saw markets popping up around and said, why not Bethany? Came to town council, got an enthusiastic response. The BBLA, also a tremendous response, gave them $2,000 seed money and said, have at it. And they did. They ran it all themselves. They got Carrie Bennett involved, and she came up with all our vendors, many of whom are still with us. And it took off. We currently have 10 vendors. We generally have 14 or 15, but because of COVID, we had to scale back last year. Don't have to tell you all the effects of COVID. So we're hoping, actually next year, to move back. We're currently in the gravel portion of the parking lot there. We're hoping to move back where we used to be to the paved parking PNC lot. We can get more vendors in there. And it's also a little safer. That gravel parking lot isn't always so terrific. But we have a board member, Ron, who goes out there every Sunday and rakes it out. So it serves us well, and we really appreciate everything the town's done for us through the years and the support. You'll still always have your tremendous summer officers down there, and they're willing to help us do anything. So we appreciate that a lot. We only started taking attendance at our market last year because we had to. We had to, of course, become policemen and monitor how many people were in the market at once, make a single entrance and exit, and you know, all that stuff. And last year, we topped out with 1,700 shoppers coming through, which is a pretty good number for our little market. Last week, the 11th, we had over 2,000. Our vendors are very pleased with the Bethany market. We are producers only, which is unlike some of the markets. So we're quite strict with our vendors, and if you don't grow it, you can't sell it. But they love our market. People flock to it, and they, they do very well. We, because of the policing situation we had to take on, shouldn't use that term, I guess, but we needed a tremendous number of volunteers last year to make this work, to be able to keep social distancing and mask requirements followed. And but the public was very, very cooperative. We, of course, had our few run-ins with folks who did not want to wear a mask or whatever. But generally speaking, it went really, really well. So this year, things have lightened up, and that's nice. But the community really responded last year, and our volunteer numbers soared. We have over 75 volunteers now, many of them repeat. And so we actually almost went under in 2013. And that's a long story, but BBLA bailed us out, and the town stepped in to help us too. And we are currently solid, vibrant, and set to go into the future as a very strong market, but only through the support of town council have we been able to get to this point, and it's a good place to be.
Thank you, Nancy. And Nancy, for those who don't know, has a market report every week, and she also includes recipes in that, which we're very grateful for. Yeah.
I think if people are on vacation, I try to keep it to 5 ingredients or less and a 2-line instruction. There's a lot of great stuff you can do.
Well, the farmers market has sure become an integral part of the town, and we all appreciate it. I know the people do on Sunday. The lines are out there long in the morning, and people go through all morning.
Well, you volunteered there, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Jerry volunteers.
Yeah.
I know Faith's been there, and
I think Mr. Mowry,
it is a town project. Doug, you want to ask?
Very fast. One is Nancy is more than treasurer. She stores the dog food in the dog watering pan, and she also stores the totes and the teas. Okay. Rosemary said we were trying to get a feel on statistics, and we don't have many, but what we do have is 2019, the average reported sales by the vendors was $18,000. That's 14 vendors in 13 weeks. In 2020, with COVID, it dropped to $14,000. 11 vendors, 14 weeks. And again, this is voluntary reporting, and a reason it's done is because the Department of Agriculture uses these figures for something. And you have the customer count. Okay. I do have a document, and there's some familiar names on here. Mr. Gravier and Mr. Kilmer, in 2004, as Nancy said, the town came together with the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture encouraged the towns support local farmers markets. It's good for the agriculture, it's good for the economy, it's good for everything else. And my observation is the town has been unbelievable in its support of the farmers market. And I think that is all. Questions?
thank you, Mr. Mowry. Thank you, Ms. Sager. And thank you for being a part of the town. Is there anyone else? Okay. The next item on the agenda are reports, and the first is report from Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and Mr. Boswell couldn't be here today, so I think Mr. Kilmer will give the report.
I'm the town council representative on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Basically, at this point, what we're doing is updating our comprehensive plan, and that's an ongoing process. We have some time to do this. the next 10-year plan is from 2022 to 2032. So we want to get a head start on this, and a number of people in the audience here are on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So it's something we're working on, and it will have obviously input from the council at some point when we come up with a draft version, hopefully by the end of the year. And I'll just keep the council informed as things move ahead if we need any assistance. And but if you could supply the commission, if you have any ideas about some of the things that we like to accomplish in the future as a council, that would be well worth hearing from that too. So thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. For anyone who's interested, the Planning and Zoning Commission will be meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in this room. And it's also brought to you on Zoom or the town council Granius platform. So tune in and see what they're up to. Okay, the next item on the agenda, thank you, Mr. Kilmer, is a report from Town Manager, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, council, this year we began a pilot program, if you will, where for the first time we've allowed people with residential parking permits to use our beachfront lots and our street ends. One of the things we said when we did that is that we would report back to the council on a regular basis during the summer to talk about potential impact, because there was concern that we might have a significant fall off in revenue. I'm pleased to be able to tell you that to date, we are seeing usage of meters, hours actually rented 5% higher than we saw in 2019. So the changeover, the ability to park, residents' ability to park in those oceanfront lots has not impacted parking to date. So I think that's a positive sign. Beach area signage is a real issue for us. You can't help when you hit a crossover and look at the railings and all the different signs. We have a variety of signs. We have a real mix. We are redundant. Some of the messages on the signs are a little out of date. This year, we're engaged in a plan to rearrange those signs, reduce the number we have, redesign them, and make the message more concise. We're working on that now. Because of the number of signs, we'll probably make that a budget item in next year's budget, but that's ongoing. Our water department has been a model for the state of Delaware in measuring saltwater conductivity in wells close to the ocean. DENREC, the Department of Natural Resources, uses Bethany Beach as a model when they actually use it as a model when they speak to the issue on nationwide seminars, but they use it as a model for other jurisdictions within the state of Delaware. We are updating that system, and we will add a new well at the northwest corner of our park to monitor the northwest segment of our service area. One of the things this well will do is look at impact of jurisdictions north of us that provide water on the aquifer that we all share, and will also measure saltwater issues, if any. We are fortunate that saltwater does not intrude in our aquifers. We are not pumping groundwater wells. We pump from deep aquifers, and that makes a substantial difference in the quality of water, but also makes us have to treat our water instead of just being able to pump and chlorinate. One of the first things that came out of the meeting of our recently formed Pedestrian and Traffic Safety Committee was a request that the bike lanes on Route 26 be marked with designations indicating that they were bike lanes and suggested travel ways, if you will, legally with traffic. We made the request of DelDOT, and DelDOT, much to our surprise, here in the middle of the summer, came out here this past week in the dark after midnight and made those additions to the roadways for us, and we're very appreciative of that. I'd like to echo Mr. Kilmer's sentiments about the 4th of July and staff. Can't say enough about staff, managers on down to our newest seasonal employee. Everyone shows up on the 4th of July. Everyone does a tremendous job. We finally found out that our Assistant Public Works Director had to be sent home after being here for 36 straight hours. Again, it's just an indication of the great people we have on board. That's a good segue into the fact that we still don't have enough Public Works employees. Generally, we hire between 19 and 20. We continue to stay at about between 9, 10, or 11 with people that come to work for a couple of days, decide it's not something they want to do, and don't come back. We continue to advertise with very little luck and try to arrange interviews. People don't call back. People don't come for the interviews. It's been a very unusual summer. That, of course, impacts what we do during the summer, because those 9 or 10 people just basically fill the void that we have on our trash service, because we do so many residential and commercial pickups in the summer. Unlike most jurisdictions where you only see one residential, we do the 3. We only see one commercial, or commercial every 2 weeks, or recycling every 2 weeks. We do 2 of those in town, and staff spends a good bit of its time doing that, which doesn't leave much time for the things that we really need done in the summer, which is cleaning of our streets, our sidewalks, our beach, our bathrooms. We've reached the point in time where we are beginning to privatize some of those services, certainly at a greater expense than we would realize, but we think in the savings we'll realize from not paying salary, we should break even here at the end of the summer. Beach cleaning isn't up to the spot where we would like it to be. Restroom cleaning isn't either. Power washing the sidewalks is fallen by the wayside. We hope to come back from that a little bit. Again, we're continuing to advertise and trying to hire, but it does impact us. And Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gravier. Does anyone have anything they want to ask? Any questions, comments? I just wanted to point out one thing. When you talked about the saltwater intrusion, is that is one of the monitors down at Parkway there?
Yes.
Yeah. If anyone is interested in seeing it, it's right there as you're going across the, as you come up Parkwood. There's the bandstand, not the bandstand, the boardwalk right there, and it's a big thing right in the middle.
Well, they range in size. They're about 6 inches in diameter if they're circular, or they're square and 6 by 6, and can be anywhere from about 12 to 18 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
The one we're discussing for the northwest corner of the park will hide with vegetation.
Okay.
So it's not that obtrusive, but that is part of the system, and we have a number of those throughout the town.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's another indication of the forward thinking of the town staff. Thank you. Okay, so let's get to new business. The first item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on a resolution to approve the final annual assessment list as presented on July 16th, 2021. Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The annual assessment list for all the existing properties in Bethany Beach has been completed. It's been available on our website since June the 11th. We advertised the website, or posted information on from the website on the Coastal Point and Wave newspapers. In addition, the Town Council and the Board of Assessment had a meeting today at 1 p.m. for property owners to request and appeal any property assessment. Since there were no requests for changes to the assessment, I make the motion that the list be accepted as published.
Second.
Second, Mr. Kilmer. Any discussion? Questions? Comments? Anybody from the audience? Okay. We have a motion on the floor and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on the installation of 6 to 8 electric vehicle charging stations near Garfield Parkway and Pennsylvania Avenue. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, Council, you have a contract before you that's been supplied to us by the Electric Vehicle Institute regarding the installation of 8 EV charging stations in downtown Bethany Beach. When Bethany became interested in the possibility of creating electric vehicle charging stations this spring, we found that Ocean City, Maryland, just to the south of us, has been involved with the Electric Vehicle Institute for the last 5 years. They have a number of charging stations within Ocean City, and they make a very unusual offer to jurisdictions that want to participate in an agreement with them. They provide the charging station, they do the installation, they maintain these stations for 5 years. They take all responsibility for their upkeep, and the only thing they ask a municipality to do is to provide electricity to the spot for the install. With that in mind, we have mapped out 8 different locations with them. 2 are on South Pennsylvania Avenue, directly across from the PNC Bank. 2 are directly across from the Blue Crab Restaurant. 2 are in the town parking lot adjacent to the Blue Crab Restaurant, and 2 would be in front of the Lighthouse Station on North Pennsylvania Avenue. We do not have an estimate yet for the cost to run electric to them. We believe it'll be minimal. In most of those sites, they were chosen because of the proximity of poles, so we'll be coming right off a pole and bringing it right to the site. But we'd like to go ahead with this so we can move it along as quickly as possible. The fee arrangement with these charging stations will work. They will be both a pay-to-park station, and they will pay-to-park space, rather, and a vehicle charging station. If you want to pay to park, you may do that without charging, but if you charge, you will pay to park also. So you will utilize our Park Mobile application if you use it as a vehicle charging station during the summer while parking is in effect. And when parking isn't in effect, they'll just be open for vehicles that want to be charged. This is our toe in the water to see how this works for us. We're optimistic that it works. Ocean City, again, has had great success, and they're very, very pleased with the impact it's had on their EV needs in Ocean City. So if you would want a motion on the contract, absent any other questions.
Does anyone want to make a motion? Mr. Shepley?
I would like to make a motion that we accept the contract from the electric vehicle charging station to install 6 to 8 charging stations in the town that we've designated and provide maintenance for the next 5 years.
Second.
Second, Mr. Morris. Are there any questions,
This
comments?
is from a guy who owns 2 EVs.
I know, he's making the motion.
And I am very much in favor of
I know
this.
you are. Well, that's the future, isn't it?
This is the future. Yes.
Anybody have any questions, comments? Anybody from the audience? Questions, comments? Okay.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, well, there's one.
Oh, Ron, could you use the microphone, please? Thank you. And identify yourself, please.
I'm Caleb, I'm a resident. How do they work as far as the vehicle charging them? Do they have to pay for the electricity, don't they?
Yes, there's a $2 an hour charge. Yes, $2 an hour charge for the electricity.
And pay to park.
Yeah, no, I understand
Both.
that. No, I was just wondering how it worked electricity-wise.
Yeah.
Thank you. No. Anyone else? Okay, having a motion on the floor and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor.
The next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote on developing a conceptual plan to determine the feasibility of constructing a pedestrian walkway connecting Central Boulevard and 2nd Street. Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, almost 2 decades ago, a sitting council considered a proposal that was offered by the then sitting mayor, who was Joe McHugh, regarding the possibility of creating a road from the end of Central to 2nd Street in our northeast quadrant of Bethany Beach. That was a proposal that was not well accepted. A number of people that lived in the area on both sides of what is now we call the Wiegand property, the Walchuk property, pardon me, were concerned that putting a roadway between Central and 2nd would create an alternate pathway for all those people that wanted to bypass Route 26 traffic. And we already know from our experience on Central and Gibson that those are a good number of people that do that. That idea was soundly defeated But one of the things that came out of that concept or that thought was how beneficial it might be to pedestrians and cyclists for there to be some kind of a pathway connecting the eastern side of Bethany to the area that is, again, west of the Walcheck property. Recently, the town acquired the Walcheck property, which was approximately 13 acres, and the Dematitis property, which was an additional 2 acres, and there's a 15-acre parcel in there. And now we own the entire span between Central and Second. What I'd like the council to consider is the exploration of the creation of a pedestrian or bicycle pathway between Central and between Second, something that would probably be similar to the pathway we have at the Nature Center. If it does not have to be elevated, then we wouldn't go to the expense of elevating it. But if it does because of whatever quality of marsh or wetlands we might have in that particular area, if we need to elevate it, we would. We would like to develop a plan that would tell us how feasible this was, what the cost might be, and what the environmental impact might be. We have submitted a tentative grant request to DENREC to help us fund that study. Right now, that's being reviewed, and it's kicked up to the second level of review at DENREC. But regardless, we'd like to go ahead and explore the possibility of creating this pathway, what it might look like, what it would entail, and what it would cost. So I'm here today to ask if you would like to do that, and a motion to go ahead and proceed, not to go ahead with the commitment on this contract you have before you, but for us to, again, explore the feasibility of creating this pathway, rather.
Thank you, Mr. Gravier. For discussion purposes, does anyone want to make a motion?
I had a question.
For a first motion, yeah. Anybody want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. Mr. Kilmer made the motion, and Mr. Denault seconded. Okay,
Cliff, I noticed that the timeline on your outline of this project is 3 months, but the start date would be early in 2022. Is that because the contractor can't do it any earlier than that? Or is there a reason we couldn't get started earlier?
I believe this is when the contractor, for this specific request or this plan, can get to the project
Said
and
that
complete
they
it.
would be available?
Yes.
Okay.
anyone else? Mrs. Denault?
I would just like to note that we've had several letters from the public that have been in agreement with and encouraging the council to seriously consider this action. I think it'll be an absolute benefit to the town and to our incoming visitors and residents.
Thank you. It gives us a balance. We have something on the south side that we have in the plan with Collins and all the way through to Wellington, so this gives the people on the north side of 26 an alternative, which would make it a lot safer. The only comment I received, too, from someone was that it be wide enough to comfortably accommodate both the pedestrians and bicyclists so they don't go whizzing by at the same time, and I know that you've taken that into account.
The Nature Center trail is not as wide as it would be for that, but it's serving a different purpose. if you will,
Exactly,
yes.
yeah. And I like the fact, too, that you're considering making it amenable to bird watching and everything, cleaning it up in terms of more natural.
Well, the request, the design request that you have in front of you is to a landscape architectural firm. What our thought was not to simply put a path through the property, that's the simple thing, but the northern portion of that the Walcheck property contains a significant amount of Phragmites. We could do a lot to restore that marsh to its natural state, which would then help it also help us with flooding, because Phragmites is famous for not being conducive to absorbing water and being that sponge we all want our tidal marshes to be.
Okay, thank you. So any more questions or comments from council? Anyone from the public have anything to say? Okay, I just wanted to point out one thing, too. All of these materials that we're considering today, in case you're not aware, are available on the website. If you go under government and town council briefing materials, you'll be able to find them, and it makes following it so much easier.
And one last thing, this is a concept we're exploring.
Yes.
We're looking to see if it's feasible
Feasible.
or doable. That's as far as we're going right now.
Right,
So-
this is not a commitment, per se. Okay. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve this, going forward with this concept, and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Gravier. Okay, the next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and possible vote to post a lower speed limit signs, 20 miles an hour, on residential streets in Bethany Beach. Again, Mr. Gravier.
Mayor, council, one of the things that we deal with, probably one of our most frequent complaints during the summer are complaints from parents, pedestrians, cyclists, about how unsafe our roadways are for pedestrians and cyclists. Unfortunately, the community was never designed to host the volume of people that it does, especially during the summer. Streets are 18 to 20 feet wide. Shoulders have all been mostly claimed by homeowners to put their trash receptacles in, or if they don't contain a trash receptacle, they're a culvert. So there's no safe place you can go from the roadway. Certainly, on an 18-foot wide street, with even one or two pedestrians or cyclists, 25-mile-per-hour speeds are too high. There are a number of bureaucratic standards that have been set and that are recognized nationally regarding speed limits. And one of those is that 25-mile-per-hour speed limits in a residential area are acceptable and lower speeds are not acceptable. There are workarounds that you can use to get past those sorts of strictures, but generally they're done on a street-by-street basis, and very rarely do you see a town being able to walk in and say, we're going to reduce our speed limits because of safety considerations to a lower speed than 25 and actually be able to enforce it. We are in the middle of trying to do that in Bethany. We have a sense that if we continue to work with the T2 Center in Delaware, we might be able to pick up some kind of a blanket exception and create a special exception for Bethany itself and be able to reduce our speeds legally and enforceably from 25 to 20. And we might also ask that some of our surrounding communities work with us to do the same thing. I know the Association of Coastal Towns is interested in reviewing this, and if not being able to do it within the framework of DelDOT, do it legislatively with the Delaware legislature. So one of the things that came out of our last meeting with the Pedestrian and Bicycle Safety Committee was the idea of lowering the speed limits on our signs, taking our signs from 25 to 20, much like Turtle Walk has their signs posted at 18. The town of South Bethany has their sign posted at 20, and they've developed a novel way to enforce that doesn't have anything really to do with the speed. But I'm asking the council to consider just a blanket change to all our residential streets, and Route 1, Route 26 in Kent are not town-owned streets and are not residential, so they're not affected by this, but that we begin the process to change those signs over and continue to aggressively work to lower the speed limits throughout town. So my motion request here would be for council approval to change those signs over. We'll be doing it as we order signs. They come in and we have staff to install them, but begin the process as soon as we can.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion
Okay.
that we approve what Mr. Gravier just said.
Second.
Second, Mr. Shepley. Are there any questions, comments? Mr. Kilmer?
Is this 20 mile an hour just seasonal, or is it year-round?
We would leave it year-round.
All right.
That would be my recommendation,
All right.
yes.
Cliff, is it enforceable?
No, it's not
That's the
enforceable.
crux of the whole thing, it's not
It's the crux of
enforceable.
the whole thing. But this is the first step as we move to try to make it enforceable, if you will.
Because I know the ones in South Bethany, I've known that they really can't enforce that either, so.
Well, they have that written in a way that says that if you violate, if you travel more than 20 miles per hour, that you violated an ordinance prohibiting it. So it's not written as you would see as, 4169 in the Delaware Code for violations over traveling over 25 miles per hour. They just say you violated their 20 mile per hour top limit on the residential streets. It's unusual.
They have an ordinance, don't they, to that
Yes.
effect? Yeah.
Is that a possibility for us, or is that just
I think we might want to approach it a different way.
approach
Yeah.
it? Okay. Okay.
Mr. Gravier, I certainly wholly enforce are in favor of that. Having traveled up for many years Collins Street, and I still, makes me very nervous to drive up that street. And anything we can do to temper that with lower speed limits is, I think, where we should be. Thank you.
So this will go up in the meantime until we pursue it further and see if we can do it
Yes.
legally.
We've had some positive conversations here in the last week with T2
Right,
about a blanket exception. That's not what we spoke about to the ACT community,
right.
but it's something we may pursue other than that.
And certainly the articles you've sent us seem to indicate that there's a nationwide more understanding and wanting to lower the speed limits in residential streets to 20.
There's an engineering standard that's being created and followed nationwide that disregards a number of important factors like pedestrians or cyclists or the volume of those in a particular area. And traffic engineers have held steadfast with this 25 mile per hour, and speeds have to be in the 85th percentile and absent accidents, and they have a whole raft of reasons why you can't, but you're seeing major jurisdictions throughout America change residential limits to 20 miles per hour.
And with good results, too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is psychological, isn't it? I mean, when you post something at 20, people will tend to go maybe a little faster. But if you keep on raising it, they can go even faster. So, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, 20 gets your attention. And there's a reason why it's 20 and not the other time, not the other roads. And also there's a psychological basis that they might do a little faster than 20, but having 25 or 35, they go even faster. So just, if you look at the traffic around here, just on our major roads.
Well, we get many complaints, as I mentioned earlier, regarding speeding. We set up our speed measuring devices, and they're surreptitious. You generally can't see them. And you'll have a group of neighbors who will swear that cars are traveling 35 or 40 miles an hour. We'll measure the travel of 1,000 vehicles, and we'll find out that 1 or 2% of them even exceed 25 mile per hour. The fact is, if you stand on one of our narrow streets and a car passes you at 25 mile per hour, which is far too fast to speed.
T2 twice. What is T2?
T2 is a center that the University of Delaware hosts, and they have what they call their traveling representative who meets with municipalities and discusses traffic and pedestrian issues.
Okay. Thank you.
They're affiliated with DelDOT, but they're based out of the University of Delaware.
They're the ones who do the traffic studies, aren't
Yes,
they?
yes.
For them, yeah. Does anybody else from council have any comments, questions? Anyone from the audience? Oh, Mr.
One more thing.
Morris.
I'm assuming that we can't make it any lower than that.
I think I would like to make this appealing to those that would authorize and help us with a change. And I think taking a step to 15 would be too big a step.
Would be too big a step.
I mean, I think you could make a case certainly on Atlantic Avenue or Pennsylvania or Collins that 15 is probably a safe speed.
Yeah.
But I think if we want to accomplish this, be able to maybe enforce 20 mile per hour, that a lower speed, that we make it 20 mile per hour.
And given what's happening nationwide, too, the standard seems to be 20.
Yes.
Yeah, moving in that direction. Thank you. Mr. Gahn.
Good afternoon. My name is John Gahn, 676 Collins Street. One of the things you have to put up with me is I commute down here, and it gives me a lot of time to think about things. In regard to the speed limit, this is probably too cute by half, but if the speed limit were posted at 19.01, that would recognize the established state of the town. It would cause people to not just to see it as something different, just like in Turtle Walk where it's 18. And I would just ask that you consider something like that.
I did
19.01.
I did pass that along to you.
Well, I mean, 18, it's in its own way, it's brilliant because you think about 18 when you see it in Turtle Walk, what's that about? So you actually pay attention to it. But in terms of us getting buy-in from state officials and engineers, I'm afraid that maybe we should stick with 20. But I understand the point, yes.
Well,
Understand.
people might become so
Get it off my chest. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
People may become so distracted it would create an accident.
Hey, John, find a faster route.
Very good, John, very good.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to post the lowest speed limit signs of 20 miles an hour on residential streets in Bethany Beach, and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. You're next.
I am?
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a first reading, an ordinance to amend Chapter 282, Peace and Good Order, Article 10, Juvenile Curfew under 18, to change the curfew time from 1 a.m. to 11 p.m. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kilmer.
Oh, I also like to mention that
Oh, yeah, go
a
ahead.
waiver of the first.
Yeah, sure, go
first
ahead.
reading. Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's also a request to
We
to waive.
waive, okay. Thank you, and by way of background, I think we should note that for generations, families have come to Bethany Beach and the surrounding area for vacation, to have an enjoyable vacation. And teens have always congregated downtown on the boardwalk and the beach, and they've enjoyed themselves, and they've been respectful of the rights of others to do so, to do the same thing. Complaints and incidents of misconduct have been relatively few. Bethany Beach has always enjoyed a reputation as a safe and quiet, family-friendly town. However, things have changed. This summer has brought an unprecedented number of visitors and accompanying teenagers. This is not unique to Bethany Beach. Other beach communities in the surrounding area and throughout the Atlantic coast have experienced this influx as well. Unfortunately, the conduct of some groups of unsupervised teens at night has become a serious problem. We have had complaints of large groups of teens hanging out in town late at night and harassing people as they walk to their cars. In fact, I had a call over the 4th of July weekend from a restaurant owner who complained of groups of teens harassing his female waitstaff as they left work at night. The workers felt unsafe to the point that he had to escort them to their cars. Those are only two examples, and I think they're examples that none of us in Bethany Beach want to tolerate or to see go any further. In addition, groups of unsupervised teens have been congregating on the beach late at night, disregarding beach rules and leaving their trash behind on the beach and the boardwalk. The proposed amendment to Chapter 282 of the Town Code is intended to address this growing problem and to protect the safety and security of the town of Bethany Beach, our visitors, our residents, and our workers. It might also help keep teens from getting into serious trouble while out unsupervised late at night, but the primary purpose is to keep Bethany Beach safe for all. The proposed amendment would do this by changing the curfew from 1 a.m. to 11 p.m. for those under the age of 18 between May 1st and September 30th. There are a number of exceptions, including for those accompanied by a parent, for emergencies, and for those working. Those are just a couple of the exceptions. The sections describing parental responsibility and enforcement stay the same. Regarding enforcement, plans are being developed by the town manager and the chief of police to increase police and town staff presence in the late evening hours. Therefore, I have a two-part motion. First, I move that council approve the proposed amendment to Chapter 282, Peace and Good Order, Article 10, Juvenile Curfew under the age of 18, to change the curfew time from 1 a.m. to 11 p.m. between May 1st and September 30th, inclusive each year. Second, I move that we waive the requirement for a second reading in accordance with Section 45.5 of the Town Code, because the ordinance addresses an urgent, immediate, and ongoing problem. Action is needed now before this conduct escalates with the possibility of someone getting hurt. The ordinance is needed to protect the health, the safety, and the security of the town, its visitors, and its workers, as well as unsupervised teens under the age of 18. That's my two-part motion.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Second. I made
I'm sorry, Mitch, a second regarding, I
I
would
s-
like to combine them both.
Yeah, combine them, yeah.
Both the first reading and the proposed changes to the time for juvenile.
I'll second that.
Second. Go ahead. Do we have any further questions or comments?
Yeah, is 11 o'clock an adequate time, or is 10 o'clock too soon? I mean, because we have activities on the boardwalk and so forth, and I'm assuming this is curfew for the entire town, not just the beach.
Oh, yeah,
It's for all public areas.
All property.
All public areas.
So, if someone is under 18, is accompanied by their parents or so forth, after 10 o'clock wouldn't be a problem, but why 11?
Actu- you
Well,
go ahead.
we're moving down from 1 AM.
Right,
We believe that most of the young people we encounter generally have a personal curfew of about midnight. We want to do something that we're able to actually enforce, and we think that 11 would be reasonable. I can tell you that I can find some police officers that think midnight would be better because it might be more enforceable at that point, but I think the 11 o'clock time, given some of the complaints we've had from residents and employees of some of our businesses, is more practical for us.
Okay.
because that's when some of them get off work and people are leaving restaurants too. So if you make it 12 o'clock, I think, 10 o'clock, it's more apt to be violated too. We'll have more problems enforcing it, I think.
I think so.
And one of the things we've found here is, and I think one of the reasons this is moving forward, is that these young people are far more confrontational than they have been in recent
Yes.
years. Far more confrontational.
I have a personal example of that. My grandson was accosted by some of these kids, so.
In daylight,
And that was actually in daylight,
yeah.
so.
Does any other member of the council have any comments to make? Yes, sir.
I assume if this passes, that we would try to advertise it, get the word out. We would post on our website, perhaps contact the real estate offices so they can put something in there, packages for renters. Is there other means that we can get the word out about this change if it's approved?
We'll put it on our listserv. I'm sure that it will go out probably on the BBLA list here within hours. We will send it to Sea Colony, which is the origin of many of our visitors, and have them send it to all their different homeowners.
Great.
Yeah,
great.
these aren't really our local kids.
No, but
There,
they
yeah.
need to be notified, or their
Exactly,
parents
yeah.
at least need to be
And
notified.
WRDE is doing a story on this too tonight, so that's a little bit more
Good.
publicity too.
Good.
Anyone else on council? Anyone in the audience wish to comment on this proposal? All right. With that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the changes as presented by the mayor regarding changes to Chapter 282, Peace and Good Order, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Okay. And I just wanted to say that I'm sorry that we have to do something like this. I mean, it's too bad, but it's just a situation that we've been presented with these days. I don't think there are any more items on the agenda. So with that, I'll call for a motion to, before we go, there haven't been any questions submitted by the public?
No, Mayor.
No, thank you. Okay. Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kilmer, Mr. Morris, second. All those in favor? Signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Opposed? None. Okay. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you for everyone
And
coming
thank
out.
you for coming.
Thank you for
Yeah.
coming.
Exactly 1 hour.